this is an advice that I would give anyone who's kind of young and starting their career or even starting a business. You need to get in the habit of doing more than thinking and saying. There's this, and you're in software now. Have you heard of the concept of like an MVP, like a minimum viable product? I kind of use that philosophy in virtually everything I do. When I'm trying to start a new project or enact like a new policy or anything that I'm creating kind of from scratch, instead of trying to aim for perfection, I create what I call a minimum viable product. What's the minimum output I could produce that I could just put on the table and not need it to be perfect. And when I put it out in the world, I know it's gonna have mistakes. I know people are gonna find flaws. I know that there may be bugs if it's like a software, but I don't care. I've actually planned for that because it's better that I actually got it out there than sit and wait for the perfect utopia to exist. I mean, we all look at any app that you've used in the past, right? Look at a screenshot of Facebook from 2009 and look at what Facebook looks like today. You know, things evolve and they are planned to evolve.
Right.
So I guess my advice, and I want to hear your guys' take, is when it comes to making mistakes, obviously those are inevitable, but I think a more powerful message is be somebody that just gets things done. If you're trying to aim for perfection, stop it. Just deliver and expect that whatever you deliver, you're going to get feedback, and it may not be positive feedback. It's okay. It's better to deliver and fix than be the guy who never delivers and never has the chance to fix. In your careers or any businesses you've started, how did you guys deal with the fear of making mistakes? Were you guys naturally executors, or did you kind of have to develop the personality or the trait of just executing? What is your philosophy on making mistakes and just executing over overthinking?
Well, I think, you know, if you're going to be in any career worthy of being in, you have to be prepared to make mistakes because nobody's perfect. You will execute less than ideal idea or problem or project at some point. And how you take feedback and correct those mistakes is, I think, what's key. Because if you learn how to take constructive criticism, it will do nothing but fuel your path to improvement.
And who better to get feedback from than the people you're delivering that project to anyway?
That's right. That's right. But it's all about accepting that positively and harnessing that critique to put out a better product, and just as importantly, learn from your mistakes so you don't repeat them.
What about when the stakes are high? Like, you're in marketing, right? Sometimes you have a campaign, you have a budget, you have kind of expectations and projections, especially if you have a client that, you know, things are tight. How do you deal with a high pressure situation where you need to execute, but making a mistake could obviously cost you maybe a client, maybe a deal, maybe, you know?
In marketing, depending on the budget, you're allowed to do trial and error. You could try different approaches, you could try different things, different age groups you're trying to target. You never know. With that stuff, it's okay. You know, you might be in a position though where unfortunately you got to get it right, right? Because I used to be a credit analyst, and my job is I had to write a file to present it to leadership in order to approve funding for financing of a new dealership. And in those situations, I have to ensure all my numbers are correct, because what can happen is if I get anything wrong and it shows a situation where this dealership is no longer viable, when realistically they are, now I've potentially harmed that dealership in its ability to get financing through us, and they have to get financing somewhere else. And in those situations too, they're not going to want to deal with us anymore, right? So in those situations, you have to be right on. But with regards to marketing, and almost like, let's say, creating a podcast, you have the ability for trial and error, right? The only difference is people are afraid because of how people comment, right? 20 years ago, you didn't have to deal with the entire world analyzing every little thing you do.
Within a second of you doing it.
Exactly, right? And they focus so much on all the wrong things versus the content, right? And I read something somewhere where a guy on Reddit made a comment and he said, I will ask a question on Reddit and I will create a different profile and give the wrong answer. And somebody will always correct me to give me the answer. But if I don't do that, nobody's going to answer the question for me. So
That's
more
so
people are
interesting.
willing to correct somebody else than answer the question directly. And it made me think. It just shows you the society that we live in, right? So again, that is the difference now in 2023 versus the year 2000, I think, in my personal opinion. Because again, everybody is watching, and again, with social media, things get forwarded so quickly and they turn your content into a meme. So it completely takes away from the content and the message you're being provided.
I agree with what you're saying. I think I personally consider myself a perfectionist. I always have. And it has prevented me or stopped me from taking risks and doing things that I could be good at and potentially be lucrative, because I am afraid of the criticism that I may get when I put myself out there. And if I don't feel like I'm going to come off looking perfect, I'm not going to do it. And I think we live in a society that people are looking for you to be, to fail, to be imperfect, and they want to feed off of that imperfection to make themselves feel better and look better. So the fact that, that person posted that they put the wrong answer to get a response is because somebody gets joy in correcting them to say, no, you got it wrong. So I do think perfection is the enemy, but I think in certain circumstances, like I do work for a software company, and if we make a mistake with the delivery of the client's application, it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars that the company may have to write off because the customer expects to have their product go live at a certain time, and it's supposed to be functioning in this way that they signed off on. And if we make a mistake, then it's going to cost money. So I do think, perfection is paralyzing, speaking from my own experience, but you have to learn that's the only way you're going to grow and get better, is if you don't fear making a mistake.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, even the most beloved people of all time, they even get criticized, right? Everyone here know Mr. Beast?
No.
No way.
Who's Mr. Beast?
The number one viewed channel on YouTube.
Mr. Beast?
Mr. Beast.
All right. Mr. B?
You guys know who Mr. Beast is. I don't know where you guys live under a rock.
What's the age demographic for Mr. Beast?
No, the demographic is 3 billion views on his videos. That's you guys
and 1 billion of them were from you.
So Mr. Beast is, I mean, everyone. Trust me, I don't know what's going on here, but number one viewed YouTuber. Okay, he's the guy who just gives $1 million out for no reason. He'll be like, okay, whoever takes their hand off the car last, they get $1 billion. They just give him $1 million. He does stuff like that. But anyways, how he got sort of where he is today is very interesting, and it's something I kind of want to instill in my daughter. It is this thing of just putting out and just learning from it. So how he became famous on YouTube is he started treating it like a science. Okay, so he would literally post a video every day. He would first of all watch a bunch of YouTube videos and take notes, make a video, and then he would look at the analytics, like, oh, the drop off is at 28 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna change. Okay, and, oh, this one lasted 32 seconds. Okay, what did I do different on this one? And he kept doing that for years, like a decade, and now he's the most viewed person on YouTube. But there's a lot of podcasts where he kind of talks about his process, but it's actually crazy. He just didn't care. He didn't care if it was gonna be negative feedback, positive feedback. He's like, let's just see how much better, this got me 3 subscribers. So with my daughter now, and hopefully future children, because I was kind of like you, I was a perfectionist. I remember I used to make a lot of things on my webcam back in the day, and I had the opportunity to post it on the ghetto version of YouTube back in they had back in the day, but I never did because I was just scared of feedback, comments. Oh, I could do it better. One day I'll make it look like the way the movies do.
Right.
What I really want to teach my kids is just put it out there. What is the worst case scenario? There is no worst case scenario. Get over it. Get over the person there's going to be way more upside than downside to you experiencing what it's like to take something from your brain and just materializing it and putting it out there. And a lot of you guys have kids as well. How are you teaching them, or is this even a topic? Like, do they have a creative outlet, or in school, how do you work on, or how do you discuss making mistakes or perfection? Because when I was a kid, if I got a C, it was game over, right?
Yeah.
There was no such thing as you're allowed to make mistakes. So
Right.
how are you guys doing it now?
Well, I have a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. And so I see a lot of the qualities of myself in my children in the fact that they're afraid of making a mistake. They want everything to be perfect. So growing up, I grew up in a different time. So recognizing those same behaviors and characteristics, I encourage them to make mistakes. But again, we live in a time where everything you do can become a meme or go viral like that. So I get their hesitation, but for sure, I'm encouraging them to, like, what's the worst that can happen if you do something and you fail? And also, I don't reprimand them for making a mistake. Like if they get a bad mark on a test or whatever, it's like, okay, what can you do different to do better next time?
Right. Yeah, and that's really the key thing. Because getting back to the theme of human beings aren't perfect, it's about the skill of learning how to turn a negative into a positive, learning from your negative experience, whether it's a bad grade, a bad performance review at work, whatever it is, learning how to use that, what potentially could be a negative experience, turn it into a positive, take what you can learn out of it, and then apply it going forward. With kids, school, it's all, a lot of it centers around school and playing sports, right? And participating in other activities. And it's about them understanding and communicating to them that they're not going to be perfect at all times. And I think there's a lot of value in, as an adult, when you go through that kind of thing for yourself at work, once your kids are of a certain age and you could start having conversations about that with them, they can learn from you and real life examples. Right? My daughter's 20 going to university, and I try to actively engage with her about stuff that I'm working on in my practice and how challenges happen, and this is how I solved them, and take what you can from it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah,
That's actually good advice.
yeah.
Don't you think? Do you think kids have it harder now than we had it back then? And I'll explain why I'm asking that, because I feel like with kids in today's world, it's no longer a situation where they feel like they're going to get made fun of at school.
Right.
Now they're dealing with the internet and spreading it outside of their school, outside of the province, outside of the country. So
worldwide.
There's a lot more hesitation there with regards to why they want to make sure it's perfect, because they feel like, okay, it's no longer just dealing with people at school laughing at them. It's now somebody, who knows, in Morocco laughing at them based on something, and again, it gets forwarded. And so these are challenges there. So again, it's just to reinforce, like, what you're doing, you are going to get some sort of feedback, but learn from the feedback. And that's the way you have to, introduce them to that, because it's going to happen. There's going to be somebody who's not going to like you for no reason, for what you did. It's just a situation. Your hairstyle, I don't like you because your hairstyle.
Right.
It's nothing about the person who you are. It's just about them having some of their own insecurities and lashing out. So that's
I'm glad you used that word, insecurities, because what this all comes back to is trying to instill in them self-confidence, right? Because there will always, regardless of who you are in life, you will always have haters, right? There will always be people to criticize. Back to the point about correcting people online. There's a billion people like that for every one person who will genuinely build somebody up, right? So, about the negativity to do with kids, a lot of it has to do with trying to build their self-esteem, build their self-confidence, and being comfortable accepting themselves for who and what they are.
Also permanence. Like, I think a good way to wrap this up is, look, what did you have for breakfast 3 Wednesdays ago? You don't know. And that's exactly that video that quote unquote went viral and destroyed their lives. Okay, no one's going to remember. So let's just get over it and move on. They don't have the time dilation we have. As you get older, you realize a year is nothing. When you're a kid, a year is a lifetime.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just got to ask your kid next time you're a kid scared of something going viral, and then they get bullied. Ask them, what did you eat for breakfast 3 Wednesdays ago? They say, I don't know, mommy. Okay, no, neither is anyone going to remember this video. So just move on.
Right.
That's a good one.
Right.